It is 2024. Here in the Pacific Northwest, the sun is just starting to come out, and so at this time of year, I like to check out what the latest enhancements are for sunshades for the Model Y in this case today. In my experience reviewing sunshades these past 4 years, the sunshades have been the hottest seller of any type of product we've ever reviewed. More people ask about these than anything else, so I always make sure to take a look at what I think are some of the best options out there. And so today what we're going to be doing is taking a look at a set from a company called JOWUA. So for my friends out there who are a little confused about what that means I do not pay for this. They were sent to me, and in return, I make a video about them, show them to you guys so you guys can make an informed decision whether or not this brand is the one for you. I try to highlight the different features of each of the different products I review, show you the pros and cons, but for the most part, I leave the whole opinion part up to you since you're the ones that are gonna be paying for them. So now JOWUA has sent me 3 different sets of these. We have the Windshield, which is $79.95. You have the glass sunroof, which is $99. And we have the side and rear liftgate, which is $89.95. Now you do not have to have the full bundle. You can buy these all separately. So here's how the next part of this video is gonna work. I'm gonna go out and install each section of these at a time. After that section is done, I'll talk about some of the pros and cons, some of the materials, some of the facts, some of the specs of each of those different parts, and then we'll move on to the next section. Let's get after it. Okay, one thing quick about these clips before we get them installed, they actually are made to stay in your car. Unlike other brands where you just kind of put them in, they kind of fall out when you take the sunshade out. These stay in your car so you can quickly and very easily get the sunshade back in when you want it again in the future. So here's how you do this. They do provide a pry tool, and for some of these, they do make it a little bit easier. You're basically gonna take this clip just like this with this thin piece, and it's gonna go like this into your trim. So they only say you need 2 in the front, 1 on either side of the mirror. So let's take this, I'm gonna pull back the trim just a tad bit, slide it in just like that, so real easy. And then you just hook it over the mirror like this, and they just kind of hook into place like that. Next, we just zip this up. Now they do give you a bunch more clips, so if you want to anchor more spots onto the car, you can do that. Because as you can see here on the left side, I do have a little bit of a gap here, so you could essentially tie that in more. But on the right side, there is no gap, nor is there any gap on the bottom. On the top, there is a slight gap up here, but it's pretty good. So now one kind of con that I am seeing with this, that it could just be me, I've tried to install this multiple ways, is that even though I have clips up here in both spots, there's so much tension being put right here on this camera, which is nice that they don't have that hidden, so that is still being shown here. But when you put both clips on, when you try to put it on both clips, it just kind of pops off. So it's got so much tension there. So I've tried a bunch of different spots. I tried putting them closer together, but this bar that supports this is just too stiff to be too much together. So you got to like really spread these out if you want any chance. Maybe if I put it way over here, and they just keep popping out. You can see the pressure is just too much on this bar to be held in there consistently. So I push that one in, this one pops out. I feel like if JOWUA would have just put a little bit of a bend in this, maybe a little bit of a U shape right here for where this is supposed to go over the mirror, taking some of that tension off, you could have a nice perfect seal in there. That would make these front ones real nice. I definitely like the zipper design and the fact that it's easy to install over the mirror. And if you really were concerned and didn't want to use the clips, of course, you could always just pull down your sunshades like this and use those to hold it up, which is what a lot of other brands use. And essentially you're getting the same result. All right, next up are the glass roof sunshades. So we get a whole nother set of clips again, and these come in 2 different pieces, so they're actually not impossible to do by yourself. The problem with a lot of these brands when it comes to the full sunroof is they're one giant piece, and the idea is less seams, less gaps kind of thing. But I've always been a little bit more impressed with the 2 pieces because it's easier for one person to do, and if you don't want the entire thing closed off, maybe just the back where your kids are, you have that option. Now they make it very simple to know which side is up and which side is down. The one that says JOWUA, the little tag that says JOWUA, is always facing the interior of the car. And on the other side, it says side up, so you know which side goes up. And they look different. This one's kind of got a reflective, shiny side to it, where this is obviously all black. So they give you a whole bunch of clips here. So what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna go and pre-put these clips on, because remember, they stay in the car, 1 on each side of where the different pieces are gonna be, 2 on the fronts, again, 1 on each side here, and then 2 on the back side here behind me. And again, I'm just gonna take it and I'm just going to push it down inside of the trim, So it looks just like that when it's installed. So I'm gonna do that everywhere else in the car. And the thing to remember is that the trim on these things is the most inconsistent thing ever. So like these guys over here, for example, had to really push to put in. These guys behind me, there's so much room, you can almost just, look at this. They just almost slip right out of there. Tons of space between the trim and the window. Whereas like this guy over here above my passenger seat, I had to use a pry bar or the little plastic pry tool and just wedge it right in there, which they give you a pry tool for a reason, but the gaps are just insane. Even from right there where there's like just touching the glass to right here, where I can almost put my finger in there, it's just so much different. All right, so let's get the front sunshade in here. Clip it to the front like that, snap these around. Sometimes you have to slide the clips a little bit to find the right spot where you're gonna get the most pressure on the clip. So you wanna find the points where it's actually touching the car, where there's actual pressure, because there's a metal bar in here that, you know, they're not all gonna be the same shape perfectly to the car. So find the spots where it's actually touching the car, the pressure points, and that's where you want the clip to be. And of course, we could also add a few more in here if we want it to be really secure, but that looks about right. Kind of move them a little bit more up there. And now all the points where there's actually pressure from the side of this to the car, that's where you want the clips. Now let's do the same thing with the back. And we're gonna see how this one fits in here. Line that up on the clips. It's getting so dark in here that I had to actually take off my UV filter for the sun off my camera. And, whoa, having a bit of trouble with the placement of the clips. There we go, get that one on there. So once you find where the placement of the clips actually go, take a look at this. You can see up here that I found that, at least on mine, with the way that these are built, they have a little bit of a bow in the middle of these here. They kind of curve in just a tad. So if you put the clips there, they're really not going to do anything. So you have to put the clips pretty close together on right around the corners of them. And it was the same thing on this side. In the middle was a total pain, wasn't going to happen. And then on the back, you know, they're all sturdy back there, fitting at this point. So it's like once you get them right, then in the future, you just pop them back on. And so you can see there's really no gap in the middle. And on the side, there's a very, very, very slight gap, but you're really only seeing the very edge of the window there. And same thing on the right side, just a very minor gap. As you can still see, my biggest issue is with my clips up in the front. All right, next we have the full blacking out the trunk. And again, this is something for someone who's like looking for privacy in the back. Maybe you're camping and you got your mattress out there or whatever. Not something you're probably going to be driving around with unless you're like going shopping and got stuff in the back or whatever. But a lot of little pieces to this. So you have your side window pieces, the trunk lift piece, and your little triangles. So first, let's start with the back seat sunshades, then we'll go to the front seat. We'll kind of black out this whole side, then do the other side. So this is the rear seat, and these don't take any clips. These are nice and fast. In fact, no clips came with these in the back. Look how fast that pops in there. And then we'll just throw in this little triangle piece right here. Perfect. And then we'll come up to the front passenger side and just pop this guy in as well. Now this rear one's supposed to just clip in as well without any clips. Let's see if I can get that to go. No problem there. And now take a look at this. We have it fully enclosed. You got the trunk fully locked down and dark. You got the side windows going on here and the front window, everything all dark. And of course, we have the sunroof. Now the last thing we're gonna do to see how dark we can actually make this is to put on the last 3 pieces and totally black this thing out. Just get that front window in. Last piece, here we go. It's quite dark in here for being a very sunny day. What's nice about it is you can really see the few different cracks that we have in here. We have, of course, our lights on. So you can see in the corners, there's little tiny little bits of light coming through, which is perfectly acceptable, of course. Really, we're not trying to be perfect here. We're trying to just block out the majority of it. Again, I have my little issue up there. A little tiny bit of light getting through on the passenger side door. Of course, you could maybe slide it around a little bit to adjust that. But I would say if I was camping in here, I would for sure have complete privacy and it would be definitely dark enough on a sunny day to take a nap. So now let's think about this from like a real life use case. Say you've got 3 children like I do in your back seat and you're on a road trip and you want them to sleep for the next couple hours because they're being freaking cranky and they won't start arguing over which Paw Patrol movie to watch. Obviously, you'd have to have the sunshade off the rear trunk so you could use your rear view mirror, and you need to have all the windows open in the front as well. However, we could leave the sunroof shades on, of course, and we could leave the side windows completely blocked on both different sides, which actually does make it quite dark back here, especially if you were sleeping over here on the side. Not to mention, it'll help a lot with keeping that heat down when you're driving on those long drives. Trust me, anything to keep my kids from being irritable, I'm in for it. And of course, this goes without saying, but the doors all have got to be closed in order to install these. So if you do want to put these on, you will have to kind of reach around from the front to install these because, of course, if you open the door, they're just going to fall off. So you can install them and then shut the door. So that can be a little bit inconvenient. Let me show you what that looks like. So let's say I'm in the driver's seat and my kid's like, Mom, I need to go to sleep. Okay, so we got the little piece here. What I have to do then, here's a trick. We're gonna lean this seat back as much as I can, get into what I call sunroof installation mode, go back nice and slowly, crunch your kid's legs a little bit, of course, come back here, and then slide her on in. It's not too bad. And if you're like most people, you're not gonna have these in your car consistently, which means that when you take them out of your car, it's gonna look something like this. 3 empty bags and a giant pile of sunshades that are not folded. And because they're too big to just kind of lay around, you wanna put them back inside of your bag. Unless you're a freak of nature born like a rocket scientist, that's gonna take a little bit of getting used to. The idea here is that you spin and twist into itself like this. And I have reviewed about, I think 7 sets of these over the years, and I'm impressed that I just did that the first try. It's out. And assuming you don't have a fridge in your trunk, you can stick them down in here with plenty of room, or they'll fit easily inside of your front. Okay, so final thoughts on these specific sunshades. There's some pros and cons of them. So let's go with the pros first. So I like how easy they were to get back inside of the bag. For whatever reason, those all went in very simple, but that could just be because I've done this a lot of times, but still, seemed like they were easier than the average one. I like their clip style that allowed them to stay inside of the car so you don't have to install those every time you put the sunshades up. What that allows you to do is feel like you want to actually use them more versus buying them, using them once, and then sort of keep them inside of your frunk or trunk. Because once the clips are in place, it's just a matter of installing them in the future. You may actually find yourself using the sunshades more, or be willing to take them off at night and put them back on again during the day. However, when talking about the clips, that is also a little bit of a con, and this isn't specific to these sunshades, it's actually kind of like this whole design in general. And that is that you have to find the right placement. Just the nature of these, how they twist and all with the bars, they're never gonna be an absolute perfect fit. There's always gonna be points that touch more than the others, and so naturally you wanna put the clips right in the middle, but you gotta find the points where they actually put the most pressure on the window and the frame, and that's where those clips need to be. Once you have that finally installed though, then you're fine to go. But it can be a little bit frustrating getting that set up initially. Does it offer maximum privacy if you have the full set? Yes. Do they feel secure when they're in the window? Mostly. None of these feel entirely secure. You know, do they completely black out the car when you're fully, enclosed in there? Absolutely, they do that really well. Another potential con for me would be that front window sunshade. I just couldn't find the right pressure points to put those clips. And like I said, if they were just a little bit tailored so that it would kind of curve a little bit more around the rear view mirror, the hard plastic area there, so it wasn't so much pressure on the metal rod inside of the sunshade, I think it would be a lot easier to install and do a better job keeping the light out. But I'm sure they thought of all of this when they designed it, so I'm gonna continue to mess with it and see if I can't get that a little bit better. Now on each of these boxes, it does say that they have a 4-year, 100,000 mile warranty. But in order to get that, you do need to go online and register. It's free to register and you'll have that warranty. So that's an excellent warranty. And I told you the price of these at the beginning of this video, but if you do use my discount, you can get 5% off. I know it's not a ton, but it is something. And remember, on top of that too, you are gonna pay for shipping with JOWUA, whereas some of the other brands, you're not paying for shipping. So you wanna factor that in. However, I will say that as far as quality goes, you can tell the quality is definitely there. All right, I've definitely hit my max for how long I can talk about sunshades. If you guys have any questions about these, look down in the comments below. There'll be links to them. You can find out information on the website, or of course, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to get to them in the next couple days.